My name is Henry Wallace, and I'm 99 years old. As I speak, my voice is steady. My hands shake a little, but my mind is sharp. I've spent my entire life studying and teaching nutrition. People often ask me, Henry, what's your secret to living so long? I smile because there's no single secret. Living a long, healthy life is about a series of small choices made consistently, day after day. I was born in a small town in the Midwest. My family wasn't wealthy, but we always had enough food. I remember the smell of fresh bread my mother baked and the tiny vegetable garden my father tended behind our house. That's where I first learned the value of real, wholesome food. As a kid, I was endlessly curious. I would watch my father plant seeds in neat rows and ask him a million questions about how plants grew. I'd follow my mother around the kitchen, fascinated by how simple ingredients could be transformed into meals that fueled the body. It was in that modest home that my lifelong fascination with nutrition began. School was a challenge sometimes. We didn't have fancy science labs, just a chalkboard and a few textbooks. But I read every book I could find about food, health, and the human body. By the time I was a teenager, I knew I wanted to dedicate my life to understanding how what we eat affects how we live and how long we live. By the time I entered college, I was working part-time at a local pharmacy, watching pharmacists and doctors discuss patients' diets and medicines. I realized then that health wasn't just about medicine, it was about lifestyle, daily habits, and what you put on your plate. That insight stayed with me for decades. Over the years, I discovered 8 key principles that guided not just my research, but my own life. Each one may seem simple, even obvious, but they compound over time. The first, and perhaps most important, is food quality over quantity. Eating real unprocessed foods consistently has been my cornerstone. Even at my age, I still wake up early. I drink water before coffee, eat a simple breakfast of oats, fresh fruit, and nuts, and take a slow walk around the neighborhood. I move every day, not because I have to, but because my body responds to motion. It keeps my muscles strong, my joints flexible, and my mind alert. Looking back, I can see how small habits shaped my life. The choices I made at 20 mattered at 40, and those at 40 mattered at 70. By 90, the habits were ingrained. They weren't conscious decisions anymore. They were just who I was. I've had hardships, of course, illness, the loss of loved ones, mistakes I made in my youth. But I've always seen challenges as lessons. Eating poorly for a week taught me what my body truly needed. Stressful times reminded me to slow down, breathe, and nourish myself, not just physically, but mentally. I've also learned the value of community. Longevity isn't just about food or exercise. It's about connection. Friends, family, neighbors, They all feed your soul. Isolation, I've seen, accelerates decline. Staying engaged, curious, and empathetic has kept me young at heart. By 9, my body is slower than it once was, but my mind is alert. I still lecture, still write, still answer questions about nutrition. And if there's a single takeaway I want to leave you with, it's this: longevity is the result of daily respect for your body, your mind, and your life. By the time I was in my 50s, I had already spent decades observing the patterns of health, illness, and aging, not just in research, but in my own life. That's when I formalized the 8 keys that I believe have carried me this far. Each one is a principle I lived by, not just taught. 1. Real food, mostly plants. I can't stress this enough. What you put on your plate matters more than any pill or supplement. I ate foods as close to their natural state as possible. Fresh vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, and modest portions of meat or fish. I avoided packaged foods, refined sugar, and anything heavily processed. It's not complicated, but it takes consistency. Even small lapses repeated over time can catch up with you. I remember a time in my 40s when I started experimenting with fasting. Not extreme starvation, just giving my body regular breaks between meals. I noticed improvements in energy, mental clarity, and even sleep. My research confirmed it. Our bodies evolved to handle periods without food. Constant snacking, I realized, was one of the fastest routes to fatigue and chronic illness. 2. Move every day. Exercise doesn't mean you need a gym membership or fancy equipment. Walk, stretch, lift modest weights, garden, or play with your grandchildren. Motion is medicine. I walk at least 2 miles a day, rain or shine, and I lift light weights to maintain muscle mass. Even simple stretching keeps my joints flexible. The key is regularity. Your body thrives on movement, not bursts of intense activity followed by weeks of inactivity. 3. Sleep as a priority. Sleep isn't optional. I went through my early career thinking I could survive on 5 or 6 hours a night. I was wrong. Deep sleep is when your body repairs itself, when your mind consolidates memory, and when your hormones balance. I now aim for 7 to 8 hours every night, and I protect that time fiercely. No screens before bed, a cool room, and a routine that signals to my body that rest is coming. Fears, stress management. Life is stressful, and that will never change. But how you respond to stress is everything. I meditate, walk quietly, and spend time in nature. I learned to detach from things I cannot control and to approach challenges with calm and patience. Stress shrinks the lifespan more than anything else I've studied. Chronic tension literally wears down your cells. 5. lifelong learning. Curiosity keeps the mind alive. I've never stopped reading, researching, or asking questions. Whether it's learning a new language, reading about the latest nutrition studies, or understanding new technology, staying mentally active strengthens your brain and keeps you engaged with life. 6. Connection and community. Humans are social creatures. Loneliness kills more than diet or exercise ever will. I've maintained friendships for decades, stayed close to family, and involved myself in local community projects. Teaching and mentoring younger generations has kept me feeling purposeful and relevant. Connection is nourishment for the soul. 7. Moderation in all things. I've always practiced moderation. I enjoy chocolate, a glass of wine, or even a slice of pie, but never in excess. Life isn't about deprivation. It's about balance. When I was younger, I learned the hard way that extremes rarely lead to sustainable health. Moderation builds longevity because it's maintainable. 8. Purpose and meaning. Perhaps the most overlooked factor in longevity is having a reason to get up in the morning. For me, it's knowledge, teaching, and helping others live healthier lives. Purpose fuels resilience. It makes you get through pain, loss, and hardship because you know your life has meaning beyond the present moment. I remember one of my students asking me, "Henry, did you ever feel like giving up?" I smiled. "Every day," I said. "But if your life has meaning, even the toughest days are bearable." That answer changed his outlook, and it reaffirmed my own philosophy. Even now, at 99, I follow these 8 keys as closely as I can. I'm not perfect, and I don't pretend to be. But the accumulation of small, intentional choices over decades has made all the difference. I see it in my physical strength, my mental clarity, and my emotional resilience. Looking back on nearly a century of life, I realize longevity is not just about food or exercise. It's about how you live every day. The habits I've shared are tools, but the real essence is in the choices you make consistently and the attitude you carry. When I was in my 70s, I faced a serious health scare. A routine checkup revealed early stage heart disease. My doctor advised medication, which I took, but I also doubled down on my lifestyle. I increased my walking, refined my diet further, and started practicing mindfulness daily. Within months, my energy returned, my blood pressure stabilized, and I felt stronger than I had in years. That moment taught me that it's never too late to change, and that your daily habits can literally reverse decades of wear. I also learned the importance of forgiveness and letting go of grudges. Holding on to anger or resentment is like poisoning your own body. I lost friends and family to unresolved conflict, and I vowed never to make that mistake. Emotional health, I've found, is as critical as physical health. Stress, bitterness, and regret age you faster than any fast food or sedentary lifestyle ever could. Family has always been my anchor. My wife, Clara, was my partner for 65 years before she passed, and our children became extensions of our curiosity about life and health. We cooked together, gardened together, and shared endless conversations about the world. Those connections sustained me through the toughest times. And even now, family gatherings fill me with energy and joy. Another lesson came unexpectedly. Adaptability is survival. Over my life, I witnessed wars, economic depressions, medical revolutions, and massive cultural shifts. Some people resisted change, and it broke them. I embraced it. I learned to adapt my routines, adopt new scientific findings, and remain flexible in my thinking. The ability to pivot, to learn, and to stay curious has been a key factor in reaching 99 years with vitality. I also keep a journal. Every morning, I write down what I'm grateful for, what I hope to accomplish, and any insights I've gained. It's a small habit, but it sharpens the mind, maintains focus, and reminds me that life is a continuous journey of learning. If I were to summarize my philosophy in a single sentence, it would be this: live intentionally, nourish your body and mind, maintain connections, and always have a reason to wake up. Everything else, longevity, energy, resilience, follows naturally. People often ask if I have regrets. Of course I do. Everyone does. But I try to focus on lessons rather than mistakes. Every challenge, every setback, every health scare taught me something invaluable. Life isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about learning from them and building better habits moving forward. As I sit here today, at the age of 99, I am grateful. Grateful for my family, my students, the countless meals shared with friends, and the opportunity to witness nearly a century of change. I still walk, I still read, I still teach when I can, and I still make small improvements every day. To anyone listening, here's my final piece of advice. Don't chase longevity for its own sake. Chase a life that matters, a life full of purpose, joy, and connection. Let your habits support that life, not define it. The years will follow naturally if you live well. And remember, it's the little things: choosing a fresh apple over a sugary snack, taking the 20-minute walk, calling a friend, smiling at a stranger, that accumulate into a life worth living. A long life isn't built in a day. It's built one mindful choice at a time. At 99, I don't just count the years. I count the lessons, the laughter, the meals shared, and the lives touched. That's the true measure of longevity. And so, my story isn't just about reaching 99. It's about living fully, learning constantly, and leaving the world a little healthier than you found it.